Chapter 7. Frustration.
The leaders of repressive nations control the information available to their citizens. Estolia has sought, from the most ancient of times, to control the information available to outsiders. During the reign of Hesperus Ancamun, the sixth sovereign after Zacharias, Estolia created and exported maps of Western Centaurarth. Their depiction of the Western Mediterranean and Balearic Islands were accurate, but Estolia was cleverly hidden. They made it seem like a trap that would sink any ship unwise enough to stray into Estolian waters. From the 17th century through the end of the 20th century, Estolians limited what was published in encyclopedias and atlases. By the 21st century, in the so-called Information Age, efforts to remain unnoticed were more a matter of subtlety than outright deception. Meredith Zakarian, History of Estolia.
4 weeks into the term, Lillian was working on her homework and trying to quell the feelings of frustration that kept welling up. She finished her math homework and pushed it into her satchel. She looked at the final notebook. With a slight sigh, she reached for it, pulling it towards her slowly. She ran her fingertips over the cover, took a deep breath and then flipped it open. The first 3 pages in the notebook were filled with all the questions the class had suggested during the first day of the term. She ran her finger down the list, pausing only a couple of times at the few questions she could now answer. She had gone to the local library, and even made the journey to the larger library at nearby Collins University, but there was almost no information at all about the country and even less about the religion. Estolia was an island nation with about 10,000 inhabitants. It had an inherited monarchy and had enjoyed prosperity since 720 years before the current era. It was more than 2,700 years old. It was the longest-lived nation on Earth. She followed that idea, thinking that she might discover more information if she focused on its longevity. But when she tried to look up Estolia by researching the nation with the longest lifespan, she made no progress. According to what she could uncover in the library, the nation that existed the longest was the Roman Empire, lasting a little less than 1,500 years. There was no mention at all about Estolia. The encyclopedia entry said that the Estolian language was similar to Spanish, but did not explain how they differed. The librarian, in response to her query, directed her to The Tower of Babel, by Milton Peru. When she looked in the index, she felt a leap of excitement to see more than 20 different entries for Estolia. She read through each of the referenced pages, but discovered that there was very little of use in the text. The most useful part stated,
"From the 7th century BC to the end of the 5th century AD, many dialects flourished in Centrath, the sea we now call the Mediterranean. Regional dialects are more apparent in cities and towns with coastal access. Maritime commerce had the greatest influence over the way that languages matured over time. An ancient scroll discovered in a monastery in Mallorca described the city of Palmara as a complex mélange of the voices of Cella, Palmara, and Anoxes, when ships from the west were in port, and a spicy dish flavored by Roma, Greece, Arabia, and Egypt, when the ship anchored in the bay, was from the east. Most of the languages in use did not have a written counterpart. In Chapter 9, we will trace their evolution from the primitive verbal into the modern written languages like Spanish, Italian, Catalan, Portuguese, and Arabic. We would be remiss in our discussion of Centrath if we did not make a note of 3 elaborate written languages developed in antiquity, and still in use today: Hathi, Zalundi, and Estolian. The first 2 developed side by side and are nearly identical, presumed to be an offshoot of the language of Anoxes. We will end our discussion with Estolian. While it has many of the same phonemes of Spanish and Italian, it is not related to either. The symbols used in their writing are elaborate, with a certain proportion being similar or identical to the writing of other cultures. 20% are like the hieroglyphs of ancient Egypt, and 10% are like the GEs, an extinct language from northeastern Africa. Estolians describe their written language as a waterfall of words falling vertically down the page.
She spent some time looking at the illustrations showing the peculiar script of Estolia before reluctantly closing the book and returning it to the reference section. The information was tantalizing and brief, but it did not help her to make any progress on her assignment. She found one obscure reference in a society newspaper from San Francisco, in 1905. The source was Quincy Lucullus's Omador.
Men of Estolia are brainwashed to believe that they will be impotent if they do not marry before they turn 31. Yet another piece of evidence that the Estolian religion is really just an elaborate cult.
Aside from that one reference, she could not find anything else negative about the religion. She even researched the man who did make the one derogatory comment, but the information about him was sparse and ended with a short obituary a few years after the earthquake in San Francisco. For a religion so dominated by men, she expected to find at least a few grumblings from women, but there did not seem to be any. She closed the notebook abruptly.